Hello guys, so today I'm live and of course I've gone to the political world. I was supposed to do this reaction yesterday, immediately it happened, but I tended to be busy, there was rain and all that and I didn't make it. However, they always say it's better late than never. Yeah, so I'm right here just trying to think about the Kenyan situation. And of course, it's about the political scenario. What are we teaching the young people and the rest of us in Kenya? You know, just after GACHAGUA walked out of the government, of course, it's like he began a reaction against the government, and he was out there revealing so much and giving details into things we could not expect. How true they are, we do not know. Of course, we wait for that. And being an inside, we can never know. Maybe whatever he drops might be true and a savior for some people. Yeah, so guys, what is actually looking so dark for Kenya is the fact that politicians are creating a violent world. And later on, when people come to fight or people become violent, they ask why. Now, remember, when you look at when we are learning sociology, we are told we have several theories that support the behaviors of people in a certain society. Now, sometimes when children are violent, it's because of the society in which they live in. What they watch, again, it's another aspect, the media. Now, let's go deep into the theories that explain aspects of violence, theories that explain violence, and into my research in a society, of course, because I don't want to be fixed on a specific aspect of violence alone. Now, we have one theory known as the frustration theory, right? Now, this is what the frustration theory says, that when you are frustrated, it is very easy to be aggressive. And of course, as a result of that, you will be arbitrarily meaningless. And with hopelessness, of course, you decide to be violent, right? Yeah, that is one aspect in social science, the explanation behind this. Okay, Ajay Shinde, of course, I remember you from India. Welcome on board. Yeah, so our discussion today is based on whatever happened yesterday in one of the churches in Nairobi, Kasarani, of course, PCEA church. This is one of the old churches that we expect, of course, that within a church ground, even if violence has to be installed, it should be avoided. Yeah, I can see one, but others are coming on board. Don't worry. Of course, people come slowly. Depending on time, it might be that people are at work and all that, but so many others will be coming on board. I'm very sure of that. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, we have now 3 on board. Ajay Shinde, so don't worry. And the rest will be joining you. Thank you for coming. And I can actually welcome more and more people, because these are things that affect us in the society, and they start from homes to schools to churches and to the entire society. Now we are looking at violence that was festered yesterday in a PCEA church at Kasarani, Nairobi, Kenya. And we are asking ourselves, because whenever something happens in a country, it is high time we learn from it, and of course we try to prevent further similar situations. It was not a very good scene, actually. Now I'm going to turn my camera so that you see what happened at Kasarani, then we can proceed with the discussion to just make it a bit friendly and, you know, more detailed, right?
Now, to other news, the church service at PCA Kasarani East, where former towards the church premises.
Yeah, so this is exactly what happened.
For about 10 to 15 minutes, where they were actually trying to get access to the dais, or whether rather the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was seated. Their motive is not yet established, but from the look of things, they were charging, throwing stones, pelting chairs, and just trying to disrupt the meeting. And in fact, some of the members of the congregation who are seated at the very back row have reported of being robbed of their belongings, and that is when we had the security detail of the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua coming in to disrupt the youth who are in their hundreds. But the aftermath here, Orandi, we have counted up to 10 vehicles that have been, stoned, and the windows have been shattered. And the aftermath here is a trail of destruction that has been left behind by the youth. And shortly after, we also witnessed.
Yeah, so you can actually see that. Of course, I'll be proceeding to share more as I get more videos onto what happened, the storming of the PCAA church in Nairobi, Kasarani. Now, of course, that political nature in Kenya is a very funny one, and I don't know what they are teaching the young people. Because, as I told you earlier, frustration theory explains that out of frustration, people feel hopeless and helpless, and they tend to turn to violence. And apart from that, another theory tells us that when we look at the theory of social learning, the motivations people have, right? What you think, let's say racial discrimination, religious discrimination, it can be an ethnic group and such things, gender. So people can look at that. And of course, they look at themselves as having been discriminated right from a home. Maybe a child feeling like they are discriminated. Within a workplace, somebody feeling they are discriminated. In a society, a certain church or a certain religious group feeling they are discriminated. So that leads to an expression of frustration, or rather what they're experiencing, to violence. We have the theory of social conflict, and it tells us that people have class conflicts. Obviously, because you belong to a certain ethnic group, certain power level, interest, and such, then you tend to see the other person as an imbalance of power, and therefore you can easily get to violence. Structural functional theory tells us that within institutions, societies, organizations, we have structures, right? Now, those structures serve to function, and regularly people get into conflicts, and with conflict, special reception of care can lead to that violence. We have psychoanalytic theory. Psychoanalytic theory talks about the tendencies of demands, the values, the deals, the norms, and those inabilities of to carry self as expected leads to elevation of anger. And from the Freud's theory, of course, we are told that motivation of behavior are as a result of the biological energy. We derive it from the life itself and the death drives. We have life drives and death drives. So if we have death drives in us, of course we tend to be violent and aggressive, unlike those who want life drives. So those are just the few theories telling us about violence. Now, I don't understand why it has turned out. Of course, from the political aspect, I can see we have social aspect and frustration, of course. Now, looking at the people close to the government, they feel like if an opponent is trying to say so much truth about what is happening, or is trying to go about, okay, interesting, Kiama. Hello from Earth. What is going in guys? In gays? GYZ. What exactly is that? Maybe you can clarify, Kiama. All right. So, looking at that, then we are clear about why violence is the order of the day in Kenya. Of course, when the president was moving at Mount Kenya region, people were very ready that violence would be there. Why was that expected? You've heard about my theories, and of course you understand why. Now, the one thing on ground is the reality is that the government is afraid of anyone talking negative about it. And that is why you see from Morara to the Gen Z, Vikash King, hello, how are you? Welcome on board. Interesting, Kiama said something, Jiwa, yes, you can clarify so that we can see how to answer. I'm very fine, Vikash King. I hope you're fine too. Yeah, so we are talking about the situation in Kenya, and we are saying the festering of violence is teaching very bad aspects to the youth. And of course, when we saw what happened in Kenya with the Gen Z coming in last year and invading the parliament, people blamed the young people, but the same aspects that the adults show, like what happened at Kasarani PCA church yesterday, you've seen the video. It's exactly something we cannot expect. Remember, post-election violence happened once in Kenya, and in Eldoret we could see young people being thrown back into fire, children, and while people are in church, they were burned. That was the extreme aspect. And of course, we are seeing Gaza and all that, things are happening, but then why should they? Okay, so looking at that, then I think there is much that we need to learn. Because after the political difference, why should the aspect of goons, you know, there are so many times GACHAGUA has been attacked. I'm not defending him anyway, but I'm just looking at what is the implication to the young people. What is it trying to tell the youth? What is it teaching the young people? Like they would learn, if we have differences, then you don't have to survive, right? Like you don't have to exist. If you exist, then you have to be attacked. Now, can you imagine we can hear from the media crew that about 10 vehicles have been broken. I'm very sure an innocent person, maybe who came to church, has been affected. Their vehicles have been cracked down. And so what kind of implication is this? Yeah. Okay, I still welcome more on board. I can see some coming in, leaving, and all that, but I would wish you stay put up to the end of this. We are not taking a lot of your time. We're just going to discuss a little bit few just to have lessons, a reaction that enhances the correctional aspect and the lessons to some of the young people, because tomorrow, of course, they'll be coming in. So as a leader, I expect that it's better. You always tell us that we should resolve conflict through reconciliations, through talks, negotiations, and all that. And of course, in Kenya, it has happened that the only negotiations that happen are between Baba and the presidents, and that's it. The rest of the people are forgotten. When conflicts arise and they are pushed aside, that is it, the end of the road. So it means that then somehow violence are not going to end today or tomorrow. We've seen since last year, before the impeachment of GACHAGUA and after, so many incidences of violence have been looming around wherever GACHAGUA steps. And if he's not an impact, he's not a force to reckon, then what is happening? Why is his vehicles being attacked? Like wherever he steps, then goons have to come in. No, who hires these goons? At some point, Atwoli said that the goons are hired by GACHAGUA himself. And of course, they were talking about him sponsoring the Gen Z, and they came up with the theories about him also abducting people. And up to now, we've not got the concept, because recently our president was like, he's going to deal, he has started to deal with them, and he dealt with the police. Of course, you heard that statement, and people are like, all right, so did you know? If I can actually find that clip, let me just try to look for it. A clip on president saying he's done away with the abductors. And of course, you can see that it has toned down how things happen in Kenya. With abductors. Let me hope that it will come up to enhance my reaction. Okay, so let me just check and see. Yeah, remember it was after Justin Muturi just walked out of government. Then during the interview, was it at Sagala? Now that's when the president was saying this. If it doesn't come, just be aware that it happened like a week ago, before he began the tours in Mount Kenya region. Of course, the president said he has dealt with the abductor group. So, what is actually worrying me is the trend, and of course, trends tend to create a culture. And once it creates a culture, then what are we going to do about it? When our young people will become violent and opt for violence as the only solution, when people will begin to trust in goons as worth being hired to stop people from getting into meetings or getting into churches, what will happen now? The target place is what worries me too. A church is not a ground where you should bring physical fights or violence, or rather, I'm very sure there are so many people who are hurt in this place, however much it has not been revealed. Looking at those pictures, it doesn't look very rosy at all. So, such situations can create fear and trauma. People who have encountered such situations would not wish to go to church, for example. So what will we be doing on the spiritual growth of individuals in a society? We are actually going to kill the spiritual nourishment of people, and it becomes devastating. Because when you use churches as fighting grounds for politicians and create scenarios as what we just saw in the video, it is extremely disheartening. Yeah. So I think people need to come up and talk against, critique such situations, and of politicians should just stop. If they don't have businesses to do, let them stay at home and attend their own churches instead of going to other people's churches and creating fracas. Yeah. So when you look at Kasarani, it has a very high population. PCA Church is a famous church that started long ago on evangelical content. And therefore, if it is to be used as a ground for fight for politicians, that one paints a negative picture on us Kenyans, right? Now, remember, when something like this happens, of course, there is some labeling that can occur. Remember the stereotype aspect, we cannot forget about it. And you go into a country, somebody says, these are Kenyan, they are prone to be violent. These are Kenyan, they are prone to hire goons. They'll see goons and they'll expect that a Kenyan will be there. That's what people should know, that as we do what we do, the future holds us, answerable to the past. We are recording a history that is not rosy, and once it is thorny, then we should expect that in future, our thorns will attract negativity from other countries, other worlds, other places, and of course, make our world negative. Before then, I think I'll also talk about the Thailand situation. It's not within this video, but of course I have to talk about it because this is not also a good picture for us. Plus the drug, we have the drug barons. They're not even barons, but these women who are being used to carry drugs here and there, and most of them, of course, they are coming out as Kenyans, and of course that is painting us also in the bad picture. So stay tuned as we get to more videos for today, because I'm planning to have more videos today, given that tomorrow I'll be engaged in a lot of activities. Yesterday I didn't make it to do anything because I was also busy, and therefore that's why today I have to keep working on more and more videos. Thank you for having come live, and I welcome you to continue following my videos. You don't know what it means for me, because as you watch, as you share, as you like and subscribe, then you become part of my community, and I'm so happy when you subscribe to my channel, when you share my videos, when you watch live. It really encourages me to keep going, and creating content is not a job. And so when you see one person, two people coming on board to watch, you are happy that your content is worth it and your time has been actually felt by somebody somewhere. And I'm so happy with the audience from India, a lot of them coming on board, and also others coming from different countries. I still welcome you on board, whether live or off line. It is encouraging. Pleasure to have you. Have a good day.